once goal-driven, ambitious Sapphire turns to the street life after the sudden death of her big brother Dre. Dre's best friend Devontae tries to honor his homeboy's last request of looking out for his baby sister. A rebellious Sapphire makes it very difficult for Devontae to carry out his promise.
Peace. This is the enemy's public. I am Bro.Nasir. Peace to the true daughter of darkness. Thanks for tapping in, sis. I appreciate it. Yet this evening, we're going to prove once again that the enemy is public. Anyone who's called themselves a public servant, most of the time, if you really look at it, they serve to our detriment and they don't really serve the people. And this evening, we're going to go over the lies and the cover-ups and different capacities of so-called public servants. I'm not going to play any music this evening. I'm going to get right to the subject matter of lies and cover-ups. Now, we're going to start in Georgia, where a young couple, peace to Lady Shea Butter, greetings, thanks for tapping in. A young couple who was looking forward to being parents and being a family trusted a doctor, and the doctor ended up killing the baby by mistake by pulling on the baby because the baby had some type of problems with the shoulders coming out through the woman's birth canal. And instead of doing a C-section, they started pulling on the baby by the head and ended up decapitating the baby. Now that is a civil matter because it was done by mistake. But what made it a crime is when they lied and covered it up. I'm going to go over that. I'm going to go over some fraudulent things that are. Greetings to Sharon Walker. Thanks for coming through. Tapping in. Appreciate it. Going to go over some fraudulent things that funeral homes do. I'm going to go on over policing for profit. We're going to cover all those areas, lies and cover-ups. Now, we're going to start with the first video. Is a little lengthy because it's a press conference with this couple's attorneys and I believe the state attorney. I'm going to share my screen real quick and then we'll get to it.
So, we're going to start about 3 minutes from this.
I don't want to wait the 3-4 minutes that they're saying it's going to start, so I'm going to go to when it started. Bear with me. They said they're going to start at 3-4 minutes. I can't wait until they start. I got to get through it. said 3-4 minutes, and it scrolled. Here we go.
I'm one of the attorneys representing Ms. Ross, Mr. Taylor in this matter. Corey Lynch, attorney Corey Lynch is here with us also. Lawyers associated with my firm, Attorney Lindsay, Attorney Watson, Attorney Gant, and got the relatives of this young couple. The purpose that we're here, why we, that's okay. You can just hold it. Okay. So we're here this morning to inform the public that, consistent with our initial complaint that was filed back in August of 2023, it was neck trauma, namely a fracture of the bones in the neck and damage to baby Travion Taylor Jr.'s spinal cord that causes death, and not any other complications associated with shoulder dystocia. We did this again 6 months ago. I told you all what shoulder dystocia was. Shoulder dystocia just means when a baby's coming down the birth canal, the bones basically get stuck in the pelvis. It is a phenomenon that occurs. It is not extremely rare. Every qualified, board-certified obstetrician and gynecologist should know how to deal with it. And so that's what a shoulder dystocia is. For background purposes, for people who weren't here 6 months ago, Ms. Ross was full term on July the 9th, 2023. She was 37 weeks pregnant. And when she went into Southern Regional Medical Center, she went in with the full expectation of having a healthy baby when she was discharged. However, tragically, during her delivery, the baby was decapitated. The baby was decapitated for sure as a result of a complication from the shoulder dystocia. But the standards of care are very, very simple. When there's a shoulder dystocia, there's certain tried and true things that must be done, positions that must be assumed by the patient herself with the assistance of the nurses, things that must be done by the nurses, putting fundal pressure, things of that sort. There should be an alert that's made to all people in the hospital so that other people can come and get fresh eyes on the situation and give this baby the best chance of coming into this world full, whole, and healthy. And our complaint is very clear that we allege that this was not done. The cause of the death, again, was the baby's neck was broken while Dr. St. Julian was applying excessive traction on the baby's neck in the face of the shoulder dystocia. This is something that is clearly contraindicated. No credible, no reasonably competent obstetrician should ever do this. You're supposed to do maneuvers and different maneuvers in order to basically get the baby out. And if in fact that doesn't work, then you go to a C-section. Unfortunately, as you all recall, right after we filed the suit back in August of 2023, representatives from Southern Regional Medical Center, they came out with a statement saying that the baby was dead before the decapitation, really implying that it was complications of the shoulder dystocia that killed the baby and not excessive traction.
Peace to my brother, Big Dog Leo G. Thanks for tapping in,
County
brother.
Medical Examiner's determination, when they put out that press release a couple of days ago, completely gouges that defense. What they did is that they determined that the cause of death was homicide. And I want to be real semantic in this capacity. Homicide in this context means that the baby's death was due to the hands of another human being. Please don't confuse this with criminal homicide, which is basically based upon a statute in Georgia law, OCG. There's a statute in Georgia law that deals with homicide, and it's a completely different definition. But what you saw in their press release is that they determined that it was a fracture and dislocation with a complete transection of the upper cervical 1 and cervical 2 spine and the spinal cord that caused the death. I'm not getting into the medical part of it at all, but C1 is the first cervical vertebra in your spine. C2 is the second one. And so there was a disconnection or break in those two. And that was the cause of death. What is really important for the public to understand is that, this determination done by the Clayton County Medical examiners was done very, very judiciously and deliberately and objectively. They went and got the input of an OBGYN expert, an independent OBGYN expert who was out of state, who has done over 10,000 labor deliveries. And then they also doubled down on that and got an independent expert who was from Georgia.
What made this a crime is the cover up and the lies. The doctor wouldn't allow the parents to have a autopsy. They refused to have an autopsy for the baby. They also, most parents, when they lose a baby, they want to at least hold their baby. They said no, that they can see the baby through the window. So they wrapped the baby up, put the baby near the window, and they actually propped the baby up as if it was intact. Straight up lying to the parents. Wouldn't allow it to have an autopsy because they would have found out the cause of death, which was decapitation, murder, meaning the death was caused at the hands of another person. It wasn't done intentional, but what made it a crime is the fact that they tried to cover up and they lied and they propped the baby up as if it was intact. And the way they found out that the baby was decapitated was through the funeral home. When the funeral home came to take the baby to prepare for a homegoing service, the funeral home called the parents and told the parents that the baby head was decapitated. That's how they found out, not through the doctor who did the delivery.
Who has delivered over 9,000 labor deliveries. They sent these experts the medical records, and they also basically sent the information to an independent private forensic pathologist. And after basically gleaning all the information from these experts, their determination death was a homicide. And practically speaking, what that means again is that contrary to what Southern Regional Medical put out there, that the baby died from complications of the shoulder dystocia before the decapitation, when they put him back, when they took her back to the operating room, they came and determined independently that the cause of death was trauma to the neck. The neck was broken and the baby died. And then whether or not the baby was alive when they went back and did the C-section, we don't know because, quite frankly, Southern Regional has not been very, very cooperative thus far in terms of discovery. We have not taken one deposition in this case, not because we haven't asked, but because there's been pushback by the defense. I will say this, we did have a conversation with the defense within the last week. And I think we've cleared this stuff up and we're going to be able to briskly get through the requisite depositions that we need to really find out what happened. We're going to depose everybody who was in the room, all the nurses, all the scrub techs, everybody, to find out essentially what the hell happened. What happened? Why was there not an alert put out all throughout the hospital say we have a shoulder dystocia so that new eyes could come in and look? Why weren't the proper procedures done in terms of maneuvers and the like? So that's what we're going to do. Again, I really want to just say that in terms of the term homicide, everybody watches TV and homicide is always associated with a crime. I've practiced medicine for 12 years. I've been doing this, basically holding hospitals and doctors accountable for negligence for 20. And I've never seen a circumstance where there's been any kind of criminal allegation made against a doctor. And again, that determination is not something within our purview. We have nothing to do with that. That's all under the jurisdiction of the Clayton County Police Department and possibly the Georgia Bureau of Investigation. So we're out of that. We have nothing to do with that. But I just want you to know that there is a distinction.
God, thanks for coming through, brother.
In this particular term is basically the death was due to the hands of another person. This case, again, we're just talking about the medicine now. But as you all remember, in my opinion, the most offensive aspect of this case deals with the lies and the cover-up that occurred after the decapitation. The fact that Dr. St. Julian came in just an hour or so after the delivery of the baby and failed to tell this couple the details and the specifics of what happened, that the baby had been decapitated. That was not done. That was a lie and a cover-up. Lies and cover-ups, again, the hospital staff there at Southern Regional Medical Center were trying to encourage this young couple to get the baby cremated in an effort to destroy evidence. They lied to the couple and told them that they were not amenable. A free autopsy paid for by Clayton County was not available to them. They did that, in my opinion, in order to force them into getting the cremation. Again, a lie and a cover-up, trying to destroy evidence. And then this is the most egregious part of it. Again, when this couple were there, and know this, I've dealt with dozens and dozens of cases of fetal death and fetal demise. It is normal, natural, proper, and right for parents after the baby is deceased to say, I want to see my baby. I want to hold my baby. I want to touch the baby's fingers before we put the baby away. And they wanted that also. The staff at Southern Regional Medical Center, they lied to them and said, you cannot hold your baby. You cannot touch your baby. And when they did not accept that, when they didn't accept it, they persisted. Then Southern Regional Medical Center, they capitulated a little bit. They said, okay, you can look at your child through a glass window, and they wrapped the baby tightly in a blanket, propped the baby's head up on the body, and set the baby up through a glass window, basically making it look like there was no decapitation. Once again, just defrauding and lying to this young couple. So
this is outright sickening that someone in the medical world, it's sickening, but it's not surprising that someone in the medical field will actually attempt to do that, to defraud this young couple of services and at the expense of a newborn baby. Sickening.
So that's what this case is about. Again, the significance of the Clayton County Medical Examiner's report is that consistent with what we said from the beginning, the cause of the death was due to the trauma and the neck being broken, and not from any other complications from the shoulder dystocia. So those are my comments dealing with the medicine. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to co-counsel in this case, Attorney Corey Lynch, who's going to basically talk about other issues, and then you're going to hear from the clients.
Good morning. There was also a statement made by Southern Regional Medical Center after we filed the lawsuit that they did, in fact, report this to the proper authorities. The medical examiner's report shows that that is also not true. This incident was reported to the medical examiner's office and to the authorities around the morning of July 13th, and it was reported to the medical examiner's office by Willie Watkins Funeral Home in Riverdale, Georgia. And we would like to thank them for doing so, because this is a situation that, as Dr. Edmond just stated, that they really, really tried to cover up. and tried to destroy the evidence of, so that they could avoid being held accountable for their actions. I would also like to thank the Clayton County Medical Examiner's Office for their thorough report and for taking the time to get these findings right. Jessica and Travion are here. They've been through a lot. As you know, the last press conference we had, they were too distraught to be here and to speak. They are here now, and I want to open the floor to them if they want to say something.
We just want we just want justice for our son. They lied to us. They ain't let us touch him. We don't like it. We just want justice for our son.
And you want to say something, babe? She doesn't.
Okay, all right.
All right. Well, do you all have any questions at all?
What was your reaction? What was the family's reaction when the report came out from the medical examiner, basically proving what you guys been saying since the lawsuit was filed in August?
I mean, it was not unexpected on our part. I mean, I'm a physician. I mean, I reviewed the records, and it was clear that what caused the baby's death was the trauma to the neck, the doctor pulling on the neck and essentially breaking the neck. So this is completely consistent with what it is we knew prior to even filing the case. It's tragic, it's horrific, but sadly, this is the kind of evidence that you need in order to basically prevail in these kind of cases.
As a doctor, what is your reaction to the fact that Dr. St. Julian's license is still active today and she still has privileges at that hospital?
I really have no comment on that whatsoever. I mean,
That's a good question. What I'm not understanding is why is this doctor being allowed to still be in that hospital working, potentially doing the same thing to other potential parents? They should have suspended her and her license pending the results of this investigation, because in all actuality, that doctor is a liability.
once again, we're still in the early ages of stages of discovery. Not by virtue of our lack of effort. We have not taken one deposition in this case. What I need to know is what the hell happened. There were multiple people in the room, nurses, scrub techs, labor, assistants and the like. And believe me, once we put them under oath and ask them what happened, we'll know. And so I don't have anything extra to add in pointing the finger at Dr. St. Julian, other than obviously she put too much traction on the baby's neck. And then and to answer your question about the fact that she's still practicing, I mean, again, I'm not an expert in terms of who's qualified to practice medicine. They've been doing this at the Georgia Composite Board of Medical Examiners for 100 years. So I trust them in their decisions.
We know that you guys are taking civil action against the hospital and the doctor. This is now turned into a criminal case, and the case has been handed to the DA's office. What would the family want to say to the district attorney when considering criminal charges possibly being filed in the
I want to correct you. This has not been turned over to the DA's office.
Clayton County Police told us that they've completed their investigation. They told us this last night, that they've handed the case to the district attorney's office.
Again, what I want to say very, very clearly is that all of that is in their hands. We are civil litigation attorneys. What it is that the judicial system does with these facts, that's up to them. I said it very early on.
In other words, this attorney want the doctor at the hospital to pay this couple monetarily, and the criminal case would probably take place down the line. They have a strong case against this doctor in that hospital, in particular the doctor, on both ends, the hospital civil and the doctor in the criminal case, because in all actuality, they all tried to cover it up. And if it wasn't for that funeral home being benevolent and not rocking with that, they would have got away with it.
And I practiced medicine for 12 years. I've never seen a circumstance where there has been criminal liability by a doctor being grossly negligent. This doctor was grossly negligent. Whether or not it rises to the level of a crime, again, way beyond my purview, way beyond my pay grade.
Is there an update on the second lawsuit about the person that posted these pictures on social media?
Sure. Yeah, we filed suit against the pathologist. I think his name was Dr. Jackson Gates. Come on, you handle it.
Well, we filed suit against Dr. Gates. To date, he has not answered that lawsuit. So he is basically in default. We filed a default motion.
Right. We filed a motion for default judgment in the case because of Dr. Gates' failure to answer the complaint or respond to the discovery. We've been unable to determine whether the court has granted that motion. Obviously, most of you know the Fulton County civil case system is down, so I can't locate and determine whether the court has granted that motion. But we're confident that we'll prevail on that.
It's been nearly 7 months since Jessica went into labor at this point, and just now starting to get these answers that you all have claimed since the lawsuit was filed in August. Can you speak to that trauma that she's endured? I mean, I know it's clear from just seeing her, but
it's been tough. It's been tough on the whole family. They have been strong and resilient with trying to move forward with life and get back to not normal, but a new normal, given the grief that they have sustained. It's been tough. I keep in close contact with them just to kind of lift their spirits up and to see how they're doing. We've also, they have actually sought out counseling as well for the grief of this, but it's been a lot, as you can see and as you can probably imagine.
I know you all are focused on civil aspects of this case, but is there a family representative, perhaps, or one of you could address if the family does believe that criminal charges should be filed in relation to this case?
I can say that the family deeply and fervently trust the judicial system. And so, again, they don't have an opinion one way or another. They're still stuck in grief. They've lost their child. And, are they sitting back waiting for charges to be pressed against the doctor? The answer is no. They're focused on healing and recovery.
I would want the doctor to be held accountable for what she did to this baby. I will be waiting for them to press charges, and I'll be on them to press charges.
But was this hospital the hospital they usually went to for their monthly checkups, or their usually checkups during the pregnancy, or was this just something that as soon as she went into labor, they decided to go to this hospital?
Yeah. I mean, just like in most situations in the United States, you have private practices. That's where she got her primary obstetrical care. And these physicians affiliated with these private practices, they have admitting privileges and delivery privileges at a hospital. So there was nothing unusual. It wasn't like she just popped up.
This young lady had full-term pregnancy, the best care that she can have during her pregnancy, but it was because of the negligence and the negligence and the force that the doctor was using instead of doing a C-section. The doctor was constantly pulling on the baby's head. And that's what caused the death of the baby. But she tried to say it was the shoulder dystocia that caused the death, which is, I'm not a doctor, but according to this physician, who's also an attorney, anybody knows that that's a lie.
Up on their doorstep, full-term pregnant. No, she was scheduled to be delivered at Southern Regional, having been followed by physicians who are on staff at Southern Regional Medical.
What is the most damning piece of evidence that you think you have in this case that you hope will help you prevail in this lawsuit? Is it this latest findings by the Clay County Examiner's Office, Medical Examiner's Office, or is it, I've heard of a video that was taken there by family members during the delivery process. Do you think that would be the most compelling?
You know what? There is no most compelling. It's all really, really jacked up. Every aspect of the evidence that shows what happened.
This couple tried to record that baby being born. and it turned into a damn horror film. Can you imagine you with the camera filming your child coming in the world, and then they turn it into a horror flick by what the doctor did with this excessive pulling and everything on the baby? Crazy.
Is traumatizing. It's something I've never seen in my life from the medical records. And there is a video that we've basically given to the defense, which shows the excessive traction. And I'll say this, just how the situation was dealt with afterwards is bizarre. I mean, it is diabolical in my mind that after this woman has lost her child, that they weren't candid with her about what happened, that they tried to basically force her to get the baby cremated to basically spoil evidence, that they lied to them saying you can't get a free autopsy at the expense of Clayton County. All of that is bizarre. It is bizarre, and honestly, so I am going to answer your question. The most shocking thing is what happened after the baby was dead.
Well, I just want to, you were referencing this in your initial statement, but from the hospital statement, it said the death occurred in utero prior to the delivery and decapitation.
I'm going to say this, literally.
Now we're going to go to the actual story on the news. Then we're going to move forward to something else.
Questions about one couple's baby answered with pain.
I just want justice for my baby boy. I'm hurt. I'm hurt bad. She hurt me. She took my baby. She didn't show no remorse. So I just want justice for my baby.
A pain that visibly overwhelmed Jessica Ross in a press conference this morning. A pain Jessica says she'll never heal from. We spoke with Jessica and Travion Isaiah Taylor Sr., the baby's parents, in a private room after they learned the Clayton County medical examiner determined their baby's death is a homicide.
It was shocking. It gave me chills to know that his head was off his body.
A baby the couple and their lawyers say they never got to hold.
It hurts. It hurts. Because I wasn't holding him. They kept telling me no.
The staff at Southern Regional Medical Center, they lied to them and said, you cannot hold your baby. You cannot touch your baby. Then Southern Regional Medical Center, they capitulated a little bit. They said, okay, you can look at your child through a glass window, and they wrapped the baby tightly in a blanket, propped the baby's head up on the body, and set the baby up through a glass window, basically making it look like there was no decapitation.
A father saying he could never carry his child that carries his own name.
Yeah. That hurts. Didn't even get to touch her.
Now, the couple and their lawyers want answers.
We're going to depose everybody who was in the room, all the nurses, all the scrub techs, everybody, to find out essentially what the hell happened. What happened?
Just come forward, please.
They're all at least culpable to what happened in that delivery room. Everybody.
The nurses that was in the room, please just come forward. Please. I just want justice for my baby.
Through their child, finding some semblance of peace in the pain.
He's watching over us.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.
This deals with a hospital, this next video, but it's about hospitals pushing patients towards hospice instead of giving them care.
Marisol Perez had a virulent case of COVID and pneumonia when she arrived at this HCA hospital in 2021. She was just 42 years old.
I kept getting moved from room to room. The rooms got smaller and smaller. The last room I was in, that's where the worst of it was. I could feel myself dying.
Doctors put her on a ventilator and into a coma. But after kidney failure and a series of mini strokes common in COVID, about a month after her admission, staff began urging her mother, Alma Salas, to transfer her daughter to end-of-life care and let her die.
I felt like he was trying to pressure me. Hey, do you really want to live your life taking care of your daughter in a vegetative state for the next 30 years? I just looked at him and I said, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to let her go.
Another time, she says, 6 or 7 HCA staff members gathered at her daughter's bedside, urging her to end her treatment. One nurse, Salas says, was very aggressive and came in repeatedly.
She got really angry. I was like taken aback.
The pressure, Salas describes, exists at some of HCA's other 170-plus hospitals. Staff are pressed to get patients into hospice, where life-saving treatments are withdrawn, and the incentive is not necessarily patient care, but the improvement of hospital performance metrics. This, according to 6 nurses and 27 doctors who practiced at 16 HCA facilities in 7 states and who spoke to NBC News. Because if a patient dies in hospice, even in the same hospital bed, their death will not be counted in the hospital's mortality statistics, a key factor used by those who rate hospital quality. And the better the rating, the better for business.
I'm not afraid of speaking up in what I believe.
Dr. Ghassan Tabel practices at an HCA hospital in Southern California. He was the only physician of the 27 doctors we talked to who agreed to go on camera. Dr. Tabel says HCA is constantly pushing doctors to reduce the time they keep their patients in the hospital and threatening to punish those like him who don't conform with the loss of their hospital privileges. In fact, he sued the hospital about this issue, and the hospital settled for an undisclosed amount in 2019. Why would the hospital care about that?
There are financial reasons. Length of stay is central to their business.
Length of stay is critical because when insurance runs out, hospitals have to pick up the tab. So moving patients home or to hospice opens up a paying bed faster.
I met with administrative personnel, and they said, regardless of the reasons, I have to find a way to lower these numbers.
Are you saying they really didn't want to hear about exceptions?
They would superficially.
So it's not about caring for the patient. It's about the money. They want to rush a sick person out of a bed because their insurance run out and just re-up on the paying customers or the paying patient with the bed. So I ran the damn hotel room. It's crazy.
They asked me why, but didn't seem to be interested in the real reasons.
The 26 other physicians we spoke with agree.
People can stop their care at any time, but to coerce somebody, to force somebody to do something, you're breaking many boundaries, crossing many lines. And that's what I would have strong objection to.
It is critical, he says, that families and patients understand the consequences of going into hospice.
When you deny care that is life-saving, that, basically you took away life.
Hospice care is appropriate in many.
Hospice care is actually end of life care. They're letting you go. And oftentimes, hospice, they'll just let you sit there and die. Just wait for you to wither away. And for a hospital to push somebody or try to force a family to doing that to their loved one, that is beyond unlawful. That's just wickedness.
Many cases and is being used more and more. But the growth rate of hospice transfers at HCA facilities is roughly double the national average.
Were you aware that the compensation that the head of HCA receives, Sam Hazen, is tied to keeping the death rates low at his hospitals?
Wow. No, I had no idea.
HCA is the only one of the 4 largest for-profit, publicly traded hospital chains that uses mortality rates as a factor in executive compensation. HCA's CEO made $35.3 million over 2 years, more than $300,000 of it because of lower mortality rates.
If you could talk to Sam Hazen, what would you say to him, Marisol?
I have no words. I just want to walk up to him and right in his face, honestly. We're not dollar signs, we're human beings.
Sam Hazen declined a request for an interview, but in its statement, the company said, "We believe all hospital executives should have quality metrics, including mortality, as part of their incentive compensation."
Peace to
Furthermore,
my
they
brother
wrote,
Drake
"It
House
suggests
Music.
that
Salute,
medical
good brother.
care in
Thanks for
HCA
tapping in.
healthcare hospitals is based on anything other than a physician's independent medical judgment of what is in the patient's best interest is untrue and wrong." Still, a month after Salah says doctors and nurses urged her to let her daughter die, she was discharged. For this family, a joyful ending, as the happy tears of Perez's 9-year-old daughter, Annalise, confirm. Cynthia McFadden, NBC News.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top.
Now we're going to go to a doctor, a medical examiner, who was falsifying death certificates.
After almost a decade working at the Launceston General Hospital, nurse and midwife Amanda Duncan has spoken out at a parliamentary inquiry into ambulance ramping.
I have received 11 reports from doctors and nurses who have disclosed alleged misconduct relating to the death of a patient, including falsified medical certificates of death.
Ms Duncan alleges the hospital's former medical services boss, Peter Renshaw, hid the cause of some patients' deaths to avoid coronial investigations. She says 2 deaths stick out. One at the emergency department.
Multiple staff involved suspected the coroner would likely make a scathing finding against the LGH regarding the person's death.
And one failed resuscitation she was involved in following a cardiac arrest.
In which other nurses and I believe was a case of doctors protecting doctors.
The allegations come 2 weeks after another registered nurse made similar claims.
There have been, for a number of years, tea room conversations around, that's why did that case not go to the coroner?
These matters are so serious, allegations that have been going on for such a long time and affecting patients and staff at the LGH, they deserve to have a serious investigation.
It is a concern. I will be asking my health department to follow up and investigate and report back to me as soon as possible.
The ABC has attempted to contact Dr. Renshaw for a response. In a statement, the health department says it's already started preliminary investigations into Mr. Millen's claims and will do the same with the new allegations when it receives details about the cases. Adam Langenberg, ABC News.
Now we're going to go to theft of services and fraud in the funeral homes.
The latest chapter in a horrible, horrible story. For the first time, we're hearing from the funeral home director that blew the whistle after he received a decapitated baby from a Metro Atlanta hospital. Atlanta News First Patrick Quinn is live tonight south of Atlanta outside Watkins Funeral Home that's in Riverdale. And Patrick, the family and agencies across the county are thanking staff there for speaking up.
Rick, the truth of the matter is, without Sylvania Watkins here, seeing this baby, noticing something was wrong, and speaking out, not only will a multi-agency investigation into this death may not be happening, but also the family might not know the truth around this young boy's death.
I've seen almost everything, and I won't say that no more because this was something I had never seen.
In mid-July, Sylvania Watkins at Willie A. Watkins Funeral Home in Riverdale received a baby's body from a nearby hospital. It didn't look right to have come from a hospital and not the coroner. He called the family and quickly realized.
They didn't know. They did not know.
The parents did not know the boy's true condition. His body was detached from his head.
And seeing the pain and the anguish as if like, what really just happened? Your heart goes out to them.
It was then Watkins knew he had to alert authorities. His next call, the Clayton County Medical Examiner, who now has urged the Georgia Composite Medical Board and the Secretary of State's office to investigate 3 specific doctors and the nursing staff at Southern Regional Medical Center. The family has since filed a lawsuit against the hospital and medical staff involved in the birth.
It was just horrible, despicable,
terrifying.
Kimberly Seals-Allers is a maternal health advocate and executive director of Earth, an app that turns Black and brown birth experiences into data to spark change. Here in Georgia in 2022, state data shows Black infants are more than twice as likely to die during birth than white infants.
When we see systemic issues like that, this is a cultural problem, and these are the things that need to be rooted out, not just at this particular facility, but out of healthcare providers who have grown to dehumanize us and our infants.
Seals-Allers says change in birthing rooms starts with speaking up. For Sylvania, initially speechless, he found his words.
When you see wrong and it's something you can do to make it right to a certain degree, you got to speak up. You got to speak up.
And in the latest statement from the hospital, the Southern Regional Medical Center, a spokesperson said, as our deepest sympathies remain with the family, Southern Regional Medical Center denies the allegations of wrongdoing in the complaint referencing the hospital. Now, Sylvania went on to tell me that they were see their baby before he was buried. In Riverdale, Patrick Quinn, Atlanta News First.
Patrick, thank you.
This is lies and cover-ups. This is what we're going over.
A shocking development in an already disturbing story.
The young Clayton County couple that accused a doctor of decapitating.
Now, this couple is going through enough and have gone through a lot. And you wouldn't think that it would get more despicable. Just watch.
Decapitating their baby during delivery at Southern Regional Medical Center now claims another doctor has betrayed them. Fox 5's Angelique Proctor joins us now from Southeast Atlanta, where she spoke to the family's attorneys this afternoon. Angelique?
That's right. This young couple so distraught about everything that they've been through that they did not attend the news conference this afternoon. But they have filed another lawsuit against a second doctor who they accuse of putting autopsy photos of their dead baby on social media. Mom Jessica Ross and Travion Isaiah Taylor Sr. were visibly distressed during the August news conference. That is when the couple accused OBGYN Dr. Tracy St. Julian of decapitating their baby during delivery here at Southern Regional Medical Center. The parents now say a second doctor violated their trust. The couple has accused Dr. Jackson Gates of taking $2,500 to do an autopsy on baby Isaiah, but they claim Dr. Gates put autopsy pictures of their dead child on Instagram. Dr. Gates says anything he posted was for educational purposes in a post he put on social media.
What community and country do we live in when somebody
The latest chapter in a horrible, horrible story. For the first time,
Pardon me, didn't mean to click on that.
A shocking development in an already disturbing story.
The young Clayton County couple that accused a doctor of decapitating their baby during delivery at Southern Regional Medical Center now claims another doctor has betrayed them. Fox 5's Angelique Proctor joins us now from Southeast Atlanta, where she spoke to the family's attorneys this afternoon. Angelique?
That's right. This young couple so distraught about everything that they've been through that they did not attend the news conference this afternoon. But they have filed another lawsuit against a second doctor who they accuse of putting autopsy photos of their dead baby on social media. Mom Jessica Ross and Travion Isaiah Taylor Sr. were visibly distressed during the August news conference. That is when the couple accused OBGYN Dr. Tracy St. Julian of decapitating their baby during delivery here at Southern Regional Medical Center. The parents now say a second doctor violated their trust. The couple has accused Dr. Jackson Gates of taking $2,500 to do an autopsy on baby Isaiah, but they claim Dr. Gates put autopsy pictures of their dead child on Instagram. Dr. Gates says anything he posted was for educational purposes.
Now, he said that it's for educational purposes, but you didn't get the consent of the parents to use their child's body for educational purpose only. And it's not for a doctor to decide whether a child's deceased body could be used for anybody's purpose, as if this couple didn't go through enough.
In a post he put on social media.
What community and country do we live in when somebody can actually form the words and say it's okay to post photos of a decapitated baby, a couple's baby, without their consent, without the permission, and think it's okay? That's insane.
I want you to hear this clearly. I will never divulge the identity or disclose the identity of any live patients or either deceased patients that come for my care.
And this is also unimaginable for this young couple. Mom is 20 years old. Dad is 21. They now have 2 pending lawsuits against 2 medical doctors. We are live.
Now we're going to go into the law enforcement part of this
Leslie Johnson
program.
tells me he is the officer in the body cam video who tased the 14-year-old boy. Now, Johnson admits they got the wrong person. He says he feels terrible about what happened, but he tells me he should not have lost his job over this incident.
At the time, I didn't know he was a boy, and I didn't know that he...
Lie number 1. There's no way that if you see this little boy, you don't know he's a boy. He's doing the same thing to his own that others do to our children. Try to make them adults when they're children. It's a bunch of nonsense.
He was, disabled or autistic. I didn't know any of those things at the time.
Former police officer Leslie Johnson was fired by the Dalton Police Department Wednesday after an incident that garnered national attention. On November 20th of last year, Dalton officers were called to help Riverdale police, who were searching for 4 black men with guns.
We observed
4 black men with guns, and then he see a little boy in his own backyard and tase him.
2 offenders fit the description, continued to run from us. I gave orders a couple times to stop, just continued running.
Get your hands up! Hands up! Hands up!
Johnson tased Avarius twice in what we now know was his own backyard. Is it your understanding now that this was a case of mistaken identity?
Yes, it is. Yes. We were later informed by Riverdale police that it was not him.
That boy looks like a boy. But a lot of cops who look like us, when they become police officers, they start seeing their own people through the eyes of their enemy. That's why I don't trust any of them, because they start seeing the same way that our enemies see us.
Now knowing that Avarius has autism, when you found that out, how did that make you feel?
When I learned that made me feel terrible, just because I have autistic people in my family. What still goes through my mind off of that video was the look on his face. That hurt.
Johnson tells me he stands by his decision to use a taser as a less lethal option. He says he followed protocol and should not have been fired.
All this time goes by, and you're telling me don't worry about it?
But one thing I can say this honestly, that if it was a white officer, this little boy would be dead. That's one thing I can honestly say. The little boy would be dead if it was a white officer.
We looked into it, you're good, everything's okay. And then all of a sudden, after that story airs on the news, now you want to take some kind of action and make me out to be the bad guy. I won't.
Now, another thing I can say is that if this was a white officer, he probably would still be on the job, because white officers stay on the job for an actual shooting that results in the death of someone. They stay on the job, but he was fired for using less than lethal force, which was probably was fired for using less than lethal force.
Won't stand for that.
Johnson says he hopes Avarius and his family can find it in their hearts to not view him as a bad officer or a bad person.
I've been told you shouldn't apologize. You should, even if it was a mistake, you apologize for mistakes.
And
he probably was fired for being apologetic and sympathetic. That's not taught by the department and in the academy. That's not taught to humanize people when you encounter them. They teach the us against them thing in the academy. So it's a lot of reasons you can go to why this officer was fired.
The Village of Dalton tells the I-Team, quote, after a thorough investigation of the facts regarding this matter, the officer in question was relieved of his duty in accordance with rules and regulations of the Village of Dalton Police Department. The incident occurred during the officer's probationary period, end quote.
Now look how many officers stay on the job for violating departmental policies. A whole lot of white officers outright violate people's rights and violate departmental policy and remain on the job. If this was a white officer, he wouldn't be going through this.
Quote. Now, Johnson was with the department, he says, for about 3 months, and he says the probationary period is 1.5 years. Dalton tells me the tasing incident is still under review by Dalton Police and the Illinois State Police Public Integrity Task Force. And Mayor Henyard is looking forward to reviewing the findings of the investigation once it is completed. Now, the former officer tells me he is considering taking action against the Dalton Police Department and the Village of Dalton.
Watch breaking news on YouTube. Subscribe.
Now we're going to go to where are they now? Police officers
It is a story Baltimore knows
of a
all
gun
too
trace
well.
task force.
Now the nation is learning of the disgraced and corrupt gun trace task force after the recent premiere of HBO's new series, We Own This City. The show chronicles the rise and fall of officers on what was once an elite squad. Shelley Orman is looking into where those officers are now.
Fox 45 covered every aspect of this, from their arrest, the plea deals most took, 2 trials, and the officers' sentencings. It has been several years since those court proceedings, so today we're updating you on where the officers involved now are. If you say the letters GTTF in Baltimore, most people know exactly what you're talking about. After HBO's new series, We Own This City, many more people will too. It's a scandal that came to light in 2017, rocking the city and police department. A total of 8 officers on BPD's elite gun trace task force were convicted for racketeering, robbery, extortion, and overtime fraud. The officers admitting to flaunting and abusing their power for almost 10 years, using their badges to commit crimes. They stole drugs and money. Members pled guilty to robbing citizens during street and traffic stops, making illegal searches in people's homes, planting evidence, and providing false affidavits and police reports to further their crimes. In some cases, the group made arrests based on bogus charges that resulted in people being sent to jail for years. Now they're the ones serving time. The 8 GTTF members were sentenced to a combined 112 years in prison. 2 of the 8 have since served their time and are now on supervised release. More on that in a moment. The heaviest sentence was given to former Sergeant Wayne Jenkins, a leader on the task force. The 41-year-old is serving a 25-year sentence in a low-security prison in Ashland, Kentucky. His release date is in 2038. Former Detective Daniel Herschel is serving an 18-year sentence. The 52-year-old is in a medical prison in Springfield, Missouri. His release date is 2032. Former Detective Marcus Taylor is also serving 18 years.
The 35-year-old is in a low-security prison in Forest City, Arkansas. His release date, 2032. Former Sergeant Thomas Allers serving a 15-year sentence. The 53-year-old is in a low-security prison in Sumterville, Florida. His release date is set for 2030. Former Detective Jamel Rayam is serving 12 years. The 41-year-old is in a medical prison in Rochester, Minnesota. He's set to be released in 2027. Former Detective Mamadou Gondo is serving 10 years. The 39-year-old is in a low-security prison in Butner, North Carolina. His release date, 2025. Former Detective Evadio Hendricks was sentenced to 7 years. The 31-year-old was just released in February 2022. Also released is former Detective Maurice Ward. The 42-year-old was also sentenced to 7 years and released in February 2022. Both men will be on supervised release for the next 3 years. Attorney Jeremy Eldridge explains under Maryland law, they served their time.
All criminal defendants in the federal system never serve 100%. So the fact that they were released after doing 5 and 7 years is pretty common or par for the course when it comes to how much time you do on a federal prison sentence. The second part of it is these criminal defendants really admitted to conduct, although it was under a RICO charge. The conduct was getting money for overtime that they didn't work or claiming that they worked while they were on vacation in the Dominican Republic. They were definitely different acts when compared to what Wayne Jenkins was accused of and what he pled guilty to, which were committing acts of violence against Baltimore City citizens. So different defendants, different crimes, and different prison sentences.
Both men released are from Baltimore County, Randallstown, and Middle River. And the fallout from this continues to this day. A total of 13 officers have been charged. And it's also led to, with the consent decree, new recommendations for BPD's hiring, training, their oversight, and accountability.
Now we're going to go to the leader of the Baltimore Police Task Force, sentenced to 25 years
The gun
behind
trace
bars.
task force was at the center of one of the biggest corruption scandals in Baltimore police history. Today, the leader of the disgraced unit begged a judge for mercy. Another officer sentence just handed down. WJZ investigator Mike Kelvin live at the courthouse downtown with the breaking developments. Mike?
Vic, Sergeant Wayne Jenkins got 25 years in federal prison earlier today, and moments ago, Detective Marcus Taylor got an 18-year sentence. He gave a rambling speech to the judge. He says he is innocent. He vows to fight this. She says that she regrets that he feels he wasn't treated fairly. She gave the government exactly what they wanted. Again, an 18-year sentence for him. A judge sentenced Sergeant Wayne Jenkins to 25 years in federal prison.
You have a gun and cocaine, probably I would say 2 1/4 just by looking at it.
The former head of the corrupt Baltimore Police Gun Trace Task Force wept and apologized for crimes that prosecutors say included at least 10 armed robbers.
Apologize, a bunch of pile of lies. These cops, these crooked ass cops, are just sorry that they got caught. If you were doing something for 10 years and you got caught and all of a sudden you become remorseful, you're not remorseful because of what you were doing. You're remorseful because you got caught. A whole lot of victims, gun trace. These cops were planting drugs and guns on people. And these people were going to jail. The same cops that put Freddie Gray in back of a van, handcuffed and not securing him and driving erratic to the point that the man was thrown all over the van and died. Same police department.
Robberies, planting evidence, falsifying overtime,
Greetings.
and selling
Salute to
$1
Drew
million
512. Thanks for
worth of
tapping in,
drugs,
sis.
including prescriptions looted from pharmacies after Freddie Gray's death. Do you have anything you'd like to say on behalf of your brother?
No, sir.
Jenkins' family declined comment, but he wept in court, apologizing to his loved ones and the people of Baltimore, including victims like the Davis sisters, whose dad died after Jenkins wrongfully started a car chase.
7 years later, we find out that corrupt cops who swore to protect and serve were nothing more than criminals. He apologized for it, Mr. Jenkins, but it still hurts. It still hurts.
What did you think of his apology? Did you think it was sincere?
I believe I believe it was sincere.
Do you trust the police department after what your family has been through?
No, sir. No, never.
Can anything change that?
I don't think so. Not now.
Federal prosecutors say the gun trace task force was a criminal gang, describing their corruption as
That's all the task force was, a criminal gang, a criminal enterprise, and they got a whole lot of money doing what they was doing.
breathtaking, saying officers were greedy and arrogant. They wanted the maximum sentence for Jenkins, 30 years, to send a message. In sentencing Jenkins to less time, the judge said she believed he accepted responsibility and regretted what he'd done.
Do you think this sends the right message, this sentence?
It should. If it doesn't, it's something wrong. Something really wrong if this doesn't send the right message.
There are more than 1,700 criminal cases in Baltimore City that have been impacted by the actions of these officers. Both Jenkins and Taylor will serve a period of supervised probation after their eventual release. Live at the federal courthouse, Mike Helgren, WJZ.
Mike, thank you. Detectives Evodio Hendricks and Maurice Ward will be sentenced tomorrow.
Now we're going to go to Tennessee Sheriff Department.
If police want to search your home, they need a search warrant. That's the law.
That's right. But new tonight, investigative reporter Ben Hall found one county where officers either don't know the law or ignored it.
I'm just trying to make a living and raise my kids.
Jessica Newnham is a single mom who just moved into this White County house.
All I do is work and stay home.
Last month, she laid down for a nap after work. Unaware, sheriff's deputies were racing toward her house. After surrounding her property, Sheriff Odie Shoup banged on her door.
White County Sheriff's Office, open the door, David.
Looking for his nephew, David Pecor, a fugitive who had missed a court date.
And then I heard deep voices. So I unplugged my fan and I asked what was going on. I was like, what? I thought it was my kids.
But when no one answered the door, the sheriff went inside.
The sheriff opened up my bedroom door with a gun pointed at me, telling me he had.
Now, a warrant for someone's arrest, a bench warrant for failure to appear in court, a contempt of court warrant. That is a arrest warrant, different from a search warrant. If a police officer come to your house with a arrest warrant, looking for someone who they think may be in your house, if you say you can't come in my house, they're not supposed to come in your house because they only have an arrest warrant, meaning if they see him anywhere, they can arrest him. That's not a search warrant. Those are two different warrants. The police play on your ignorance that you don't know that law, but then some just ignore it. They just want to go in and think they can just kick people's doors in, or you're supposed to let them in because they're knocking.
He had a warrant to search the house, but never showed me anything.
Stop warrant. Open the door.
Audio from the dash cam reveals how shocked Newnham was.
You? For me? No, I'm looking for David. David who? Pecor. Who's that?
Newnham says she has never met David Pecor and was traumatized by the sheriff's actions.
He said, we have warrants. Said for David. Okay, you don't have warrants for me, so you move on unless you're coming with a search warrant. And it has to be specifically a search warrant, not an arrest warrant. You don't have to let anyone in your house without a search warrant. Unless that person walked past while you got the door open and they actually see them, the plain view doctrine, they can't come in your house.
You don't know him? Okay, come on out here. Have a seat right here. We're going to look around.
Deputies searched her house with dogs, but came up empty.
We're serving a warrant on a subject that was my.
And what's bad about it is this bastard, the sheriff, is going to justify what they did. And he's supposed to be the standard bearer of conduct for his constituents and his subordinates. But watch what this ignoramus say.
My nephew.
Sheriff Shoup did have an arrest warrant that day, but admits he did not try to get a search warrant.
We don't have to have a search warrant. If we got reasonable probable cause, which we did, and the subject that lived there prior was my nephew, the brother to this subject, and we made entry.
Deputies believed Pecor was inside because they saw a car that resembled his in the driveway, and Pecor's brother had rented the home months earlier.
Nobody was hurt. She was treated with respect. She was released, and
going in someone's house without their consent, the way they went in that house, is not respectful. If that's respect, I would hate to see them get disrespectful.
I apologize, and that's all I owe her.
But legal experts insist the law is not on the sheriff's side.
He needed a search warrant to go into that woman's house, and the entrance was absolutely unlawful.
Attorney David Rabin says officers can't barge into people's homes just because they have an arrest warrant. A search warrant is different. It requires a judge's permission to go inside.
This is not some obscure law that nobody's heard about. The Supreme Court decided this issue over 30 years ago.
Sir, you guys need to leave my house.
And this was not the first time Shoup's department has entered the home of an innocent person without a search warrant.
They didn't ask any permission. They just kind of shoved in.
Lance Davis was shocked when White County deputies showed up at his house 2 years ago.
Supposedly, they're looking for a guy who I've never heard of and I've never met. You don't have a warrant to search in my residence. Yeah, provide it. Show it to me.
Deputies found nothing, but again claimed they did not need a search warrant.
It's called probable cause, okay? The gentleman that we're looking for, he has a felony warrant against him.
You cannot go from house to house with only an arrest warrant.
Vanderbilt law professor Chris.
Probable cause is a bunch of nonsense. Even you have to have probable cause based on a warrant, based on what you see and actual know, not thinking. You have to actually know emphatically. And if you know emphatically, you have to go and get a warrant. You just can't come in somebody's house with an arrest warrant. You have to have a search warrant. But this cop thinks he can do that. And it's not their ignorance, it's just their perceived power and entitlement.
Christopher Slobogan says the problem goes well beyond White County.
I think it's fairly common for police to believe that if they have an arrest warrant, that authorizes their entry into any place in which they think the suspect may be. But in fact, that's not the law.
I've never had a gun drawn on me before.
Jessica Noonan says she's still shaken by what happened.
Man, I'll tell you what, I don't know what you're crying about. I mean, really. What are you scared about?
Some things are hard to get over.
1 minute I was comfortable in my house, and the next minute I'm up with my hands in the air.
Late today, the sheriff told me he was relying on a Tennessee law that gives him the right to go into homes and make arrests. But legal experts say that law is from 1858, and no state law can override the U.S. Constitution. The Supreme Court ruled a search warrant is required. Ben Hall, News Channel 5, investigates.
Ben.
Now we're going to go to policing for profit.
The following is a News Channel 5 special presentation.
Tonight, News Channel 5 investigates.
All I'm asking you is money.
Critics call it highway robbery, but the ones taking the cash
Do you have any large amounts of money? Tiene mucho dinero en su truck y trailer?
are the cops.
Why should you be able to take the money if you can't prove that they were involved in criminal activity?
Because the state of Tennessee lets me do that.
This is really highway shakedowns coming to the U.S.
What happens to your rights
Can I search your truck and trailer?
I said, you have no reason to search my car.
when the police have a profit motive?
It looks like that they're not concerned about stopping the drugs, that they just want the money. That's what it looks like.
A 4-year News Channel 5 investigation
Is it okay that they...
It's okay.
helps fuel a national debate.
I told them that I was trying to buy a vehicle, so why would you leave that out? I don't know.
What do you mean you don't know?
I expect a better answer from a police officer than a 4-year-old who just spilled grape juice on the couch.
And now, big changes are on the way.
We will not be using civil forfeiture to take anything from you. Car, cash, nothing.
That's a bunch of nonsense. That's what they use, the civil forfeiture, to justify taking people's money and their property. This is ongoing and this is prevalent throughout the whole entire United States. All counties in the United States are trying to implement this practice.
From your news and information leader, this is a News Channel 5 Investigates special, Policing for Profit.
Hello, everyone. I'm Rory Johnson.
And I'm Vicki Yates. For almost 4 years now, our News Channel 5 Investigates team has shined the light on civil forfeiture laws that let police take people's money without charging them with a crime.
That investigation included the review of dozens of hours of police video, surveillance from the ground and the air, and it's
meaning you could have your tax return, which sometimes can be up to $10,000 to $12,000, depending on what type of job you have, and sometimes more than that. And you could be traveling with that money to go purchase something, car, put a down payment on a home, and the sheriff's department or the police department can pull you over and take your money.
It took our team across the country. That News Channel 5 investigation began in 2011, sparking a conversation about the rights of the innocent.
In 2012, lawmakers began that debate, even as News Channel 5 continued to uncover new abuses.
In 2013, lawmakers passed a compromise that was supposed to put safeguards in place, but let the practice continue.
And in 2014, our investigation uncovered new questions about the practice. This time, a leading DA broke ranks with those who fought to keep it legal.
We'll have more on that later. But first, News Channel 5 Chief Investigative Reporter Phil Williams takes a look back at how it all began.
What you're about to see is how police agencies across Tennessee make money.
Pop the trunk for me. You got to be observant. Not every officer can do interdiction.
On this day, News Channel 5 Investigates went on patrol with officers from the Dixon Interdiction and Criminal Enforcement Unit, DICE for short, seeing how traffic violations.
Can I search your truck and trailer?
Which was crazy about this, sometimes they'll pull over drug dealers, don't take them to jail, don't take the drugs, they take the money because they don't want the money that's tied to the drugs to be in evidence. So they'll just take the money and let the drug dealer go. Or they'll just pull you over and take your money. Or they'll have the dog walk around your house, signal for the dog, say something in another language, because you don't have to say sit. If you train your dog to sit with another word, it's going to do that. People don't understand that trick. You don't necessarily got to say sit to a dog to sit. You could say lampshade. If that means sit to that dog's going to sit down.
Can lead to searches that they hope will yield drugs, or like in this police video,
I take it it's not yours, right?
a stash of more than $200,000 of suspected drug money that DICE got to keep.
What we're doing, we're taking advantage of how the laws are, to use the money to be able to put back to fight the drugs. Use the money from the bad guys to catch bad guys is what we're trying to do.
What's crazy about that is this devil can sit up here and call somebody a bad guy when the police are nothing but a criminal enterprise that commit more crimes than anyone. Anyone who they will call a bad guy, they commit more crime and break more laws than they do.
That one right there is the 23rd vehicle.
And DICE isn't alone. There's also the 23rd Judicial District Drug Task Force and 2 others. Altogether, 4 different departments patrol the 50-mile stretch of interstate west of Nashville, looking for money to fund their agencies.
So everything's paid through seizures and fines.
Dixon Police Chief Rick.
The worst thing you can have is a police department with a low budget in a poor county or a poor city. This is what they'll do, as they just said, to fund their endeavors or fund their whatever they're doing or fund their department. civil seizures, they'll use it to fund and actually put it in their payroll. They call it you're using the bad guys to catch the bad guys. Nonsense. This is probably a poor county with no money, and this is how they're getting their money.
Rick Chandler serves on the boards that oversee both DICE and the 23rd.
So if these officers out on the interstate don't come up with cash, then they might lose their jobs.
Well, it's a possibility, yes.
In fact, I-40 has become a major profit center for Tennessee law enforcement, with officers stopping and often searching out-of-state vehicles. This is a good example of what can happen. These two DICE units had this tractor-trailer truck stopped. While they were searching it, another DICE unit stopped that tractor-trailer truck.
And that's what they do. They'll stop out-of-state vehicles. Because if you're out of state, let's say if you're in Tennessee and you're from New Jersey, you don't want to come all the way back to Tennessee to go to court. So it's going to be settled right then and there. They're going to take your money.
And then a third DICE unit stopped another vehicle. Is it okay that they...
It's okay, it's okay.
It's because of a state law that lets them seize money like the cash shown in these police photos, simply based on the suspicion that it's linked to drug trafficking. If an owner does not take legal action to get the money back, the agency gets to keep it all.
In order for us to make that seizure, we need to show that there is probable cause connecting that money to the drug trade.
Franklin DA Kim Helper says that's just what happened here. When officers from her 21st Judicial District Drug Task Force stopped this tractor trailer, a search uncovered large blocks containing almost $200,000 cash.
What's wrong with having large amount of cash?
Exactly.
Cash that the
Especially
truck's
if you
owner,
earned it.
Darian Petrosian, claimed to know nothing about.
In general, it was seized because based on our evidence and probable cause, it's illegal drug proceeds.
Is that money in those black bundles we brought out here? Is it your money?
And Helper says the fact that no one ever claimed the money shows they were right. Still, officers released the driver without filing a single charge. They even cut a deal to let Petrosian come to Tennessee to get his big rig back.
If I am a criminal, if they allege me to be a criminal, why would they settle? They do not just let criminals.
Because they are the criminals. They're keeping your money. Whatever money was in your truck, they're keeping it for themselves. They're saying that they're putting it back out there to trap drug dealers. Nah, they're pocketing that money.
Let's go.
Why should you be able to take the money, though, if you can't prove that they were involved in criminal activity?
Because the state of Tennessee lets me do that.
But what makes the traffic stop especially
The
unusual
state of Tennessee is crooked as hell.
It occurred here in Smith County near the Carthage exit. That's almost an hour outside her district. Helper's officers patrolled that area under a deal where they give a third of any cash they seize to the agency that owns that stretch of road.
Why should that not be perceived as renting turf? I mean, this is not your jurisdiction.
I don't think it is renting turf.
It's a way to make money, though, for your task force. Honestly,
Well, when you say make money, I guess it is a way for us to continue to fund our operations.
And this is really highway shakedown.
A very criminal, crooked ass operation. You're taking money from someone, not necessarily even proving that they are getting it through drug proceeds or wherever you suspect them of doing it. They never see a day in court, but you take that money and you're paying officers with it. That's unlawful, or at least it should be.
Coming to the U.S.
Scott Bullock is an attorney for the conservative-leaning Institute for Justice, which has criticized civil forfeiture laws that open the door for what it calls policing for profit.
It shows that the police are really focusing not on trying to get the drugs, not on trying to enforce the drug laws and stop that flow.
Not particularly trying to enforce any law. They're in it for the money. The worst place you can drive through if you're out of state is a poor county. They're going to pull you over and take whatever you have and fund the police department or sheriff department with it.
Throughout the country, they're focused on getting the money.
Out here on the interstate, interdiction officers have a choice. Conventional wisdom is that the drugs come in from Mexico on the eastbound side, but the money goes back on the west.
Well, we actually work both lanes, most east and west.
Yet we spotted those interdiction teams staging time and time again with their backs to the drug side. In the case of the 23rd, a review of daily activity sheets discovered that when officers noted the location of their traffic stops, there were 10 times as many stops on the money side.
We want both sides of the road worked.
It looks like that they're not concerned about stopping the drugs, that they just want the money.
That's what it looks like.
Is that the case?
And that shouldn't be the case, but that's what it looks like.
It ain't in sync.
And it can lead to turf wars. After Dice got this $1 million seizure in 2010, a Dice officer suddenly found himself.
What do you think that $1 million in money seizure is going to? That's a whole entire year of paying quite a few police officers.
Being blocked by a unit from the 23rd. Within minutes, 5 units from the 23rd are lined up in a show of force. Then there's this 2008 video where a unit from the 23rd cuts in front of a Dice officer on a stop, prompting this heated exchange.
Leave me the alone. Let me tell you something, punk. You ever come up here and try to wreck me out again, it'll be your last time, you understand?
You've got two agencies fighting to stop the same cars.
Competition can be a good thing as long as you don't violate any person's rights.
But they're competing for the money that they can take off of drivers.
Well, they're competing to do their job.
¿Tiene mucho dinero en su troca?
No. It's a job that critics say has become more about profit than policing.
Law enforcement is supposed to be about getting the bad guys. It's not supposed to be about making money.
When we come back,
I just feel like he was harassing me.
A California couple's experience on Tennessee's highways raises new policing for profit questions.
We're going to go to another part of policing for profit. Part 2.
This is a very fine line between a good stop with maybe a bust to it, or a perfectly legit guy in a complaint.
Here, a supervisor for the 23rd Judicial District Drug Task Force coaches another officer. He suggests they use the driver's claim that he has worked with police as an interpreter to convince him to consent to a search.
Is it okay to trick people into consenting to searches?
No, I don't believe so.
That's just one of the stories that raised questions about the tactics used by interstate interdiction agents looking for money to fund their agencies.
but that wasn't all. Our investigative team also spotted a supervisor for the 23rd Drug Task Force making other questionable stops.
And News Channel 5 investigators was watching from Sky 5 and had questions about this stop where the supervisor pulls over two Hispanic men in an SUV with Texas plates.
Damn right he's lying. He's lying his ass off.
Coming outside your lane of travel. I don't know if you're getting sleepy or you're not drinking, are you?
So what was the reason for the stop?
I think he said he crossed the line, weaved over.
Yet our camera had been tracking that same supervisor and captured the exact moment that he put on his brakes just as he was about to pass the Texas vehicle. As you can see, it's squarely between the lines. For almost 2 minutes, the interdiction vehicle trails the SUV, and while the officer himself is all over the road,
that car wasn't weaving.
The tape, it was not weaving. It did not cross the line. You're right.
He never weaved once, did he?
No, he stayed within his lane of traffic.
In the end,
But they pulled him over anyway.
That task
Probably
force
took something
decided
from him.
not to investigate those tactics.
But then in 2014, there were troubling new allegations, and our chief investigative reporter, Phil Williams, was back on the case.
Ronnie and Lisa Hankins have no fears about traveling the freeways of Southern California. But after what happened in this traffic stop back in May, the interstates of Tennessee are another story.
Seemed like Nazi Germany. You got to have paperwork and proper authority to come through Tennessee.
The San Diego couple had been on the road for days after attending a family funeral in Virginia when they got stopped on the westbound side of I-40 in Dixon County.
And I told her, we're going to get pulled over.
It came right after they passed an interdiction agent with the 23rd Judicial District Drug Task Force.
What made you think he was going to stop you?
Because we had out-of-state license plates and my wife is Hispanic.
After separating her from her husband,
Come on, have a seat in my truck for me. It's safer there.
Supposedly, so he could write her a warning ticket for a traffic violation, the agent began repeatedly questioning her. Then he had a favor to ask.
We say there's not anything illegal in it. Do you mind if I search it today to make sure?
I just feel like he was harassing me, wanted me to say yes, I can
He was
search my
harassing
car.
you.
I'm asking you for permission to search your vehicle today. And you are well within your right to say no, and you can say yes. It's totally up to you whether you want to show cooperation or not.
So why not say yes?
I mean, there's no reason for him to say, to search my car.
I am asking you that because I do believe that you're not being honest with me.
Why wouldn't I be honest?
I don't know.
He died on May 1st.
The officer did not believe their story that they had been to a funeral for Ronnie's grandfather, even though a quick search of the internet would have proved they were telling the truth.
You have to give me a yes or no.
Shouldn't have to
I
do none of
didn't
that
answer
either.
so I can figure out whether I need a dog to go around it or not.
I was getting upset because, he kept on asking me over and over. And I said, you have no reason to search my car.
You run your dog.
That's when agents brought out a drug dog to sniff around their car.
If that dog does not hit, they don't get to search your car.
No. There's no probable cause.
But that's exactly what happened.
We ran a dog and the dog's alerted on the vehicle, so we're going to be searching it, okay? And whatever's in there, we're going to find in just a second.
Ronnie was furious.
There's never been any drugs in that vehicle and never will be.
It turns out the man that the task force stopped knows a thing or two about law enforcement himself. He's a federal police officer here at the Marine Corps Air Station Miramar in San Diego.
You lied about the dog sticking on the car. The dog didn't stick on the car. You got the drug task force. You out here arresting me and my wife, but I'm just coming back from a funeral.
That's exactly how I expect most police officers to act. Okay.
You're convinced they cued that dog to hit?
Yes. 100%. There's no doubt in my mind.
See, that's the thing. They didn't know that they had pulled over a federal police officer with the military, pulling this nonsense on him. And what was crazy, that in Florida, the state troopers pulled over a sister, and she turned out to be the state's attorney, and she had them shook. She asked them for their IDs and cards, but what I don't like about it is she didn't get them fired. She let them stay. She wasn't hard on them enough. She let them stay where she had them. You get somebody like that, you're supposed to get them.
They cued that dog.
Take a look in slow motion. The dog passes an open window on the passenger side with no alert. The handler then leads the dog around the front. Then on the driver's side, he turns his body around and gestures towards the window. Suddenly, the dog sits. That's the alert.
Just like a child. You can make a child say anything you want. You can make a dog do whatever you want too, if you train them the right way.
And you are convinced that's what happened here?
Yes.
Keep the line about the dog alert.
For almost an hour,
Man, it's awesome to be here.
the two agents searched the Hankins' belongings,
Ain't making me here, ain't what you told me, boy? Yeah.
even tearing apart part of the dash of Lisa's new car.
That really pissed me off when he started ripping everything out of my car.
You felt violated?
Yeah, I felt
And they didn't find anything after doing all that.
violated, and it just, he didn't want to hear it.
And when Ronnie insisted there were no drugs, the agent confided he wasn't really expecting any.
Well, I'll be honest with you. Would you go in this direction, I would think you'd have drugs in the car. I think you have large amount of money.
I knew right then they were looking for money to fund their operations.
And what made you think that?
Because they're not worried about the drugs. They're worried about the money.
Is that not marijuana?
Yes.
When agents couldn't find anything, they wrote up this report to justify the dog's alert, saying they found marijuana debris on both the driver and passenger floorboards. We showed the report to the couple.
It's just them trying to cover their backside.
Ronnie noted that the drug dog had passed by the open passenger window and did not alert. The truth, they say, all agents saw inside the car was grass from the cemetery where they had buried Ronnie's grandfather.
It makes me angry that someone would attack my character, because not only that attacks my character, that could cost me my job.
As for her experience, Lisa Hankins said she knows one thing for sure.
I know I won't never drive to Tennessee again. That's the last time.
The handler in that case emphatically denied he had cued his dog to alert on the Hankins car.
But coming up, Phil takes that video to one of the nation's top experts.
There's no doubt in your mind that that dog was cued to alert on that car?
Yes, correct.
Going to part 3 now. Policing for profit.
Here. This 2013 traffic stop, where police justified a search after supposedly getting an alert from a drug dog, is one of many where critics have questioned whether those canines are really reliable.
So how reliable are police drug dogs when the police have a profit motive?
News Channel 5 chief investigative reporter Phil Williams continues to investigate what happened to a California couple during a traffic stop just west of Nashville.
Hey guys, how you doing today?
This dashcam video shows how the encounter began.
It just happened so fast, and I was upset and I was tired.
Lisa and Ronnie Hankins were on their way back home to California after a cross-country trip for a family funeral when they got stopped in Dixon County by an interstate interdiction agent with the 23rd Judicial District Drug Task Force, supposedly for a traffic violation.
Come on, have a seat in my truck for me. It's safer there.
I got upset when he took my wife out of the car. There's no reason to take her out of the car.
We say there's not anything illegal in it. Do you mind if I search it today to make sure?
I have talked to my husband.
When Lisa refused to give him permission,
I said, I haven't done anything for you to search my car.
And that was not the answer he wanted to hear.
Nope. I can tell he was getting upset with me.
You run your dog.
agents brought out a drug dog. Within seconds, the dog sat on the driver's side. That's how it's supposed to show it's picked up the smell of drugs.
We ran a dog and the dog's alerted on the vehicle, so we're going to be searching it, okay?
The couple no longer had a choice.
He already made up his mind what he was going to do.
As a federal police officer with the U.S. Marine Corps, Ronnie Hankins immediately had his suspicions.
100%. There's no doubt in my mind. They cued that dog.
There's no doubt in your mind that that dog was cued to alert on that car?
Yes, correct.
We showed the video to Auburn veterinarian Professor Lawrence Myers. He's a nationally recognized expert on how detection dogs work. Myers noticed that while the officer keeps his hands to himself on the passenger side, as he rounds the car, that suddenly changes.
The officer pointed at the spot where the dog eventually sat before the dog sat. That's actually a cue.
Intentional?
I don't think so.
Exactly. He can just point. Don't necessarily have to say sit. Just point. Make a gesture that the dog is trained to react to, and the dog will sit down. I had dogs all my life. Pit bulls, German shepherds, you name it. I had dogs all my life, and we knew how to train dogs. We don't even have to say sick 'em. We could say something else that means that to that dog, and that dog would do it.
Myers said it could be a training issue.
Dogs take their cues from people. I must go investigate. What is he pointing at? And having stopped and paused in the whole thing, the officer then releases tension on the leash. The dog goes,
Exactly, T. Riggle.
But the professor also noticed that there's no audio from the handler, raising even more questions.
Is the handler giving any audible cues to the dog, or just simply saying sit?
So in this case, we don't hear what he's saying to the dog.
Correct. Not a clue.
Our investigation also uncovered another traffic stop where one interdiction agent from the 23rd takes his dog around a vehicle once, twice, 3 times without getting an alert. Instead of accepting the result, he blames the dog's arthritis. That's when another officer brings out his dog. After 2 rounds, he gets an alert, finally giving officers a reason to search.
Here's one of the problems with using 2 dogs like that. One of them is definitely wrong.
Respect, greetings to Black
In fact,
Panther
the
Jackie
thorough search
Brown.
of the
Thanks for
truck found
tapping in.
no evidence of drugs or anything illegal.
The dog doesn't alert, so they assume there must be something wrong with the dog.
Right. And when the dog alerts and nothing is found, there must be some reason that it did alert.
A few years back, research.
That's crazy. One dog didn't alert, so they called in another dog, which is violating the actual rights of the motorist, because in a Terry stop, you're not supposed to keep someone more than a certain time. And I'm sure if they waited for another dog, the time exceeded that they're supposed to keep those people there. Constantly violating the rights of people, yet they want people to respect them.
researchers from the University of California, Davis set up a test inside a church, supposedly to see how well drug and explosive detection teams could find contraband that had been hidden inside. The dogs hit 225 times, but there was a catch. There were no drugs or explosives anywhere, suggesting the dogs can sometimes react to what they sense from their handlers instead of what they actually smell.
So if there's no alert, there's no search, there's no probable cause or reasonable suspicion to search a vehicle or to search that piece of luggage.
Thomas Castelli is legal director for the American Civil Liberties Union of Tennessee. He says the U.S. Supreme Court requires reasonable suspicion for a search. So if detection dogs can false alert so easily, it raises serious constitutional questions about those searches.
If we can't say with some level of certainty when the dogs alert, that means there's the presence of drugs, then that kind of destroys the law enforcement's probable cause for effecting the search.
In fact, a review of reports kept by the 23rd shows that out of 24 alerts this year, in 15 cases, officers did not come up with any contraband that they could seize. Still, those reports show officers wrote up why they thought they got the alerts. The car was a California rental. A friend could have had marijuana the night before. Or officers spotted what looked like marijuana shake or residue in the carpet.
That's wishful thinking.
The dog could be wrong.
Oh, absolutely.
It's outright lies.
But they don't want to put that down in their report.
And I don't know why.
Salute to my Jersey comrade. Warfare K. Strong salute to you, brother.
They shouldn't even stop us. There was no reason to stop us.
Winnie Hankins says that as a police officer, he knew his rights, but that still did not protect him from what he believes was an illegal search.
If this happened to you, what does that say to you about the constitutional rights of people who pass through this area every day?
There's no telling how they get violated.
As you'll see later, that drug task force is now making big changes.
But first,
Don't talk to him. Just listen. Just listen. Okay. Do you want to go home? I sure do.
a dramatic video shows police offering a man his freedom in exchange for his cash. Then later,
what do you mean you don't know?
The story that captured the nation's attention.
I expect a better answer from a police officer than a 4-year-old who just spilled grape juice on the couch. What happened to your drink? I don't know. I don't know.
If you know of something we should investigate, send us your tips. The best way is email. That email.
We're going to go to part 4, policing for profit.
What you are seeing is video that one mid-state police agency kept under wraps for more than a year.
You don't have any knives on you, do you? No knives? No guns?
It shows how an Indian-American businessman from New York lost $160,000 during a nighttime traffic stop along I-40 in Dixon County.
Holy crap.
Money that authorities would eventually be forced to return more than a year later.
Of all the police video that our investigation uncovered over the past 4 years, none is as compelling as the one you're about to see.
It shows interdiction agents offering 2 men their freedom for their cash.
So is it good police work or policing for profit? Bill Williams investigates.
It's policing for profit, and it's also serving as the court right at that location, because in all actuality, that man was pulled over, wasn't arrested, but he bailed himself out with that money before he was actually arrested. These cops is crooked as hell. I don't care where you go, you're going to run into a crooked cop. Why? Because the police are a criminal enterprise.
Here in rural Hickman County, on a darkened stretch of westbound Interstate 40, 2 California truckers will soon be given a tough choice.
You're going to have to trust me, or you're going to have to go out on a limb and see what happens once we find it.
Potentially face a criminal prosecution or hand over the cash that the interdiction officer suspects is hidden somewhere in their tractor trailer. Before the night is up,
Hey guys, it's in the back of the reefer. You just got to get to it.
agents will recover piles of suspected.
Actual facts, T. Wriggles. LA, they have a gang called the Executioners out there with matching tattoos, especially under the former sheriff Alex Villanueva. And as far as your comment about the newscasters, it's state-sponsored news. It's going to always be in the favor of the state.
The drug money, almost $500,000, money that their agency, the 21st Judicial District Drug Task Force, will get to keep.
I will do everything I can
Salute to
take
my
that money out of the
kinfolk,
hands of those drug dealers and the
JJ the
cartel.
Enlightening One.
But DA
Salute,
Kim
family.
Helper says the two truckers who she believes were drug couriers got to walk without even being asked to name their accomplices because she believes they had not really committed a crime that she could prosecute.
Now, they got them with the goods and they got them with the money. But the prosecutors say she don't have evidence to prosecute them. But they are taking the money and letting them go. So that let us know what the motivation is. It's about the money to fund their operation, which is a criminal enterprise, and the taxpayers are not funding this. They're getting it from, actually they are getting it from the taxpayers, but it's not a flow of money as far as like taking your money out of your check. No, just taking the money in a lump sum and putting it into their operation.
The transportation of illegal drug proceeds through the state of Tennessee, from my reading of the statute, is not a crime.
You say you're not traveling with anything illegal in your truck, right? No drugs, and you're not traveling with any large amounts of U.S. currency?
The incident begins as a routine traffic stop, except in this case, agents are specifically looking for drug money heading back to Mexico.
You wouldn't have a problem if I searched your truck or your trailer for any items mentioned?
As the time
These searches altogether is violating the rights of people, their Fourth Amendment rights. Yet people let them do it because they just want to get on their way. This stop without any reasonable articulable suspicion is a violation in the first place. Saying that you suspect me of something, you have to ask them, is suspicion a misdemeanor or is it a felony? If I'm suspected of doing something, you have to see me actually do it in order for you to detain me, or, reasonable articulable suspicion. Just saying suspicious is a big umbrella. You have to be real specific. That's why I say reasonable articulable. That means you got to articulate it. Articulate your suspicion to the person you say you're suspicious of.
passes, suspicions are aroused by discrepancies in the trucker's stories, but officers are not finding anything up in the refrigerated trailer known as a reefer, so the agent begins threatening.
Exactly, T. Wriggles. They're getting tipped by, the state police is getting tipped by the agents that's inside. Agents selling the drugs, and they're tipping them as they leave to come back. You're absolutely right, T. Wriggles. All, because for one, none of the drugs can come into the United States without the help of an agent letting the drugs in, whether it's through a seaport, through a border, or a damn airport.
Threatening the truckers with criminal prosecution.
Money laundering is what it's called, and it's a federal offense. The good thing for you is, when we seize money, we don't deal with the feds. We seize it ourselves. And if it ain't your money, and you say, Agent Owens, it ain't my money, I don't know how it got there.
He's telling the guy, if you tell me it's not your money, we're fine.
Right.
He's essentially offering him his defense, isn't he?
I don't think he is, because I think he recognizes at this point that the transport of money just through the state is not a crime under our money laundering statute.
This cave bitch is just a damn criminal herself. She's a criminal cave bitch.
Does it not make sense that I'm trying to help you? Because he honestly can't think for a second that we ain't going to stay here until we find it.
He sure is making this guy think he has committed a crime.
Well, and again, as I've indicated to you, law enforcement agents use various means of questioning to get as much information.
Now, what law is this criminal in uniform in the clown suit is enforcing? Not one law are they enforcing. They're confiscating people money under the guise of law enforcement.
information as they can.
But if I have not committed a crime, is it proper for a police officer to make me think that I have?
I believe that officers can use a variety of techniques.
If you don't, then what I have to do is I have to report it to the feds. All right? The feds are in charge of what? They're in charge of citizenship, immigration, all of that stuff. All right? And then they're going to come knocking on your door and they're going to talk to you about it.
It sounds like he's saying, give me your money or I'm going to call the feds.
And have you deported?
It may sound like that. I don't think that that is ultimately the intent.
Here's the thing, all right? Don't talk to him. Just listen. Just listen, okay? Do you want to go home? I sure do.
Still, the officer assures the driver that if they cough up the cash, they will not be asked to rat out their accomplices.
Hey, I'm not asking you if you have knowledge about it, and I won't ask you if you have knowledge about it. You understand me? All I'm asking you is where's the money?
Throughout this incident, the officers tell him, you do not have to tell us where you got this money.
I don't even care where you got it. All right? I want the product. That's what I'm after.
Is that police work?
Police work to the extent that these officers, from my perspective, are trying to work with these guys who are merely the couriers.
But at no point does any officer ever ask, what's the name of the big fish in this case?
Right. And I agree with you. Should they have asked it? Maybe. But I don't want to discount the fact that sometimes perhaps that final piece of information, while it appears to be missing here, ultimately may come to fruition in another manner.
Finally, an hour into the traffic stop,
We'll come back. You sign these forms saying you don't know anything about it. You're just claiming it. It's not yours. And it's done.
It's in the back of the reefer. I don't know how it got there. Not mine.
We're good.
the driver comes clean. A short time later, the task force will be $500,000 richer. Still, the DA admits she isn't completely happy with the outcome.
I would love to see our legislature make a change so that we can make those arrests on the side of the roads of these guys.
As a result of that investigation, Tennessee lawmakers did pass legislation in 2012 to clarify that drug couriers can be charged with money laundering under state law.
When we come back,
this is a taking without due process.
The policing for profit investigation that went viral.
Now we're going to part 5. Policing for profit, lies, and cover-ups.
Here in this nail salon in Texarkana, Texas, a Vietnamese immigrant found his American dream.
Was that a big moment for you to become a citizen?
Oh yeah, I'm very happy.
Van Hun came to the U.S. in 1999, becoming an American citizen 7 years later. But nothing prepared him for what he'd encounter when he got stopped in Tennessee by DICE, the Dixon Interdiction Criminal Enforcement Unit. Hun was on his way back to Texas after a long trip to Virginia, where he had hoped to pay cash for his third nail salon. Agents had plenty of questions.
You have any gun? You have any rush? You have any money? You have anything? I said, no.
So you did not tell them that you had cash?
No, I don't.
Why?
Because that too much cash. I don't want to have trouble because I'm hurry on the way home.
That Vietnamese immigrant is one of the many policing for profit victims we've met over the past 4 years.
In that case, he was stopped by the drug task force known as DICE while he was carrying cash that he hoped to use to buy a nail salon.
Do you have any large amounts of money?
Now, this is a businessman who owns legitimate businesses, and they stop him and hinder him from funding his businesses. And they know this man has these businesses in the location, yet they'll stop him and take his money. With no probable cause, no reasonable or articulable suspicion, not only that, everybody's suspicious to them. If you're not wearing that uniform, that clown suit that they wear, you're suspicious to them.
Money.
What Hunt did not know was that DICE gets its funding thanks to a law that lets police take cash off of drivers if they have reason to suspect that it's drug money. After he gave them permission to search his vehicle,
All they have to say if they suspect it as being drug money, and they could take it. Again, it can be you just going to deposit your money in a bank, in a bank account in your account. You could be taking your payroll that you made. If you own a business, you could be taking your payroll or your money, your proceedings, to deposit it. And they stop you. All they have to do is say they suspect it as drug money, and they can seize it. And if you don't have the time to fight it, they're going to keep your money and they're going to use it for themselves.
these photos show where officers discovered a bag, inside it $50,000 cash, wrapped in aluminum foil. Still, Hunt thought it was his right as an American citizen to tell the police it was none of their business.
So you told them, I bought it, I just want to go.
Yeah, yeah.
And that didn't work, did it?
That didn't work.
They took you to police headquarters?
Yes, yes, sir.
In handcuffs?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
There inside Dixon Police Headquarters, detectives questioned Hunt for 4 hours, demanding that he prove why he was traveling with so much cash.
And they kept telling you this is drug money?
That they do.
And what did you say?
I said, no, that's mine.
He was eventually allowed to leave with his money.
But a Mexican immigrant, Carmina Perez, wasn't so lucky when she encountered an interdiction officer from the 24th Judicial District just across the Tennessee River in West Tennessee.
And I told him, I have no weapons, I have no drugs, I do have money with me. When I told him that I had money and I told him the amount I had with me, he asked me to get off the truck.
Perez freely admitted to the officers that she was carrying $15,000, money that she had earned cleaning houses, to help her family with their medical bills.
And I told him I have been saving that money for months and months and months, you know, and this is what I'm going to use it for. He kept calling me a liar. He kept saying that we Mexicans, we all have a reputation of being drug smugglers, that that's what I was going to use it for. And I kept telling him, no.
This right here, they tore it.
After 4 hours on the side of the road, agents took Perez's money, forcing the family to cancel their trip home.
It took me months to save that money. And it hurt me because the way they treated me and the way they treated my son.
They treated them like criminals, and they wasn't criminals. The criminal had the badge and the damn gun. That was a criminal.
In Carmina Perez's case, she found an attorney to sue, and almost a year later, she got her money back.
But the investigation that captured national attention was the story of a New Jersey man and the officer who took his cash. Phil Williams continues his investigation.
You live in the United States, you think you have rights, and apparently you don't.
As a professional insurance adjuster, George Reeby spends a lot of time traveling from state to state, but it was on a trip to a conference in Nashville that the New Jersey man got a real education in Tennessee justice.
I never had any clue that they thought they would be able to take my money legally. I didn't do anything wrong.
Reeby was...
It's ironic. Earlier I said traveling from New Jersey, because that's where I'm from, that somebody from New Jersey fell a victim to Tennessee's nonsense.
Driving down I-40 heading west through Putnam County when he was stopped for speeding. A Monterey police officer wanted to know if he was carrying any large amounts of cash.
And I said, around 20,000. And then at that point he said, do you mind if I search your vehicle? And I said, no, I don't mind. I certainly didn't feel I was doing anything wrong. It was my money.
Never give the police permission to search your vehicle, because they can plant something in your vehicle. Never give them permission to search your vehicle. See, he's lucky they're after money. But if you get a crooked cop who wants to, who's career driven and have aspiration of being like a detective, if he's a patrolman, wants to be a detective, wants to deal with narcotics, he'll plant drugs in your car just so he can get on that task force for narcotics, because if you constantly catching people for drugs, you fit the criteria to be a narc. So you have somebody that eager that they'll plant drugs on people and have them go into prison over drugs that he planted. I did a video a few months ago when a cop was actually sentenced to 25 years for doing that to dozens of people.
That's when the officer confiscated the cash, $22,000 in all, based on his suspicion that it was drug money.
Why didn't you arrest him?
Because he hadn't committed a criminal law.
Officer Larry Bates says the amount of money and the way it was packed gave him reason to be suspicious.
Now, this guy here is as intelligent as a odor eater. That's how intelligent he is. He's intelligent as an odor eater. He don't even know why he pulled the person over or locked the person up or took the money. He don't even know why he did. What? Just watch.
The safest place to put your money, if it's legitimate, is in a bank account.
But it's not illegal to carry cash.
No, it's not illegal to carry cash. Again, it's what the cash is being used for to facilitate or what it's being utilized for.
But you had no proof that that money was being used for drug trafficking, correct? No proof.
And he couldn't prove that it was legitimate.
Tiene mucho dinero en su truck y trailer.
Bates is.
Why do someone have to prove that their money is legitimate? Why do someone have to prove anything that a police officer is suspicious of? Not only that, that's self-incrimination. To self-incriminate yourself, they say you're hindering investigation or you're obstructing. If you don't work with them, you're not obstructing. You have rights against self-incrimination.
This is part of a system that News Channel 5 Investigates has discovered gives Tennessee police agencies the incentive to take cash off of out-of-state drivers. If they don't come back to fight for their money, the agency gets to keep it all.
This is a taking without due process.
Union City Attorney John Miles is a former Texas prosecutor who's seen similar cases. He says that while police are required to get a judge to sign off on a seizure within 5 days, state law says that hearing shall be ex parte, meaning only the officer's side can be heard. That's why George Reeby was never told there was a hearing on his case.
It wouldn't have mattered because the judge would have said, this says it shall be ex parte, sit down and shut up. I'm not to hear from you by statute.
I told them I had
That's
active bids
crazy.
on eBay that I was trying to buy a vehicle, and they just didn't want to hear it.
In fact, Reeby had proof on his computer, but the Monterey officer drew up a damning affidavit citing his own training that common people do not carry this much U.S. currency.
On the street, $1,000 bundle could approximately buy 2 ounces of cocaine.
Or the money could have been used to buy a car.
It's possible.
And did he tell you that he was trying to buy a car?
He did.
But you did not include that in your report.
If it's not in there, I didn't put it in there.
So why would you leave that out?
I don't know.
Bates also told the judge the money was hidden inside a tool bag underneath trash to deter law enforcement from locating it.
That's inaccurate. I pulled out the bag and gave it to him.
And even though there was no proof that Reeby was involved in anything illegal, Bates' affidavit portrays him as a man with a criminal history, a history of an arrest for possession of cocaine.
And that was 20-some years ago.
Were you convicted?
No, I wasn't convicted.
But Officer Bates says that old arrest was still part of the calculation to take Reeby's money.
Am I going to use it? Yes, I'm going to use it because he's been charged with it in the past, regardless whether it was 10 or 15 years ago.
We're entitled not to be deprived, right, of our property without due process of law, both under the Tennessee Constitution and the federal Constitution. And nobody cares. Nobody cares.
And Miles says he's seen other seizures where police knew the cases were shaky. Still, authorities insisted on what they call.
See, that's the problem I have with the United States jurisprudence, because if you have a constitution of the United States, state laws should not ever supersede the Constitution and federal laws, but you have state laws that supersede the Constitution. The Constitution tells us that we have the right to bear arms, but in certain states, you have to go through a whole lot to get a firearm because of state laws, which is why America's jurisprudence is not worthy as toilet paper.
Called a deal.
You can definitely get your property back if you'll only fill in the blank. Give us $500. Give us $1,000. Give us $1,500, and you'll get your $10,000 piece of property back.
And you call that extortion?
Absolutely.
I'm just looking forward to getting my money and leaving.
After Reeby filed an appeal and after News Channel 5 began investigating, the state agreed to return his money.
I voluntarily waive my constitutional rights.
If he'd sign a statement promising not to sue. But they made him come all the way back from New Jersey to Monterey. He got a check, but no apology.
If they lied about everything in the report, why would they apologize?
And with that, Reeby was ready to put Tennessee in his rearview mirror.
Dog really don't want to come back here.
When we come back, the continuing fallout from our policing for profit investigation.
Now, this happened in Tennessee.
That investigation fuels a national conversation, and one of the agencies at the center of that controversy makes a stunning reversal.
We will not.
Still, we're at part 6 of
The question, do you have cash in the vehicle, is surprisingly common in traffic stops, and the police are prepared to overcome any language barrier to ask it.
Tiene mucho dinero en su truck y trailer?
Comedian John Oliver highlighted our investigation during a segment about civil forfeiture for his HBO show Last Week Tonight.
And did he tell you that he was trying to buy a car?
He did.
But you did not include that in your report.
If it's not in there, I didn't put it in there.
So why would you leave that out?
I don't know.
What do you mean you don't know? I expect a better answer from a police officer than a 4-year-old who just spilled grape juice on the couch. What happened to your drink? I don't know.
In a more serious take, producers of the CBS hit drama The Good Wife confirmed that they also drew upon our investigation for inspiration for an episode that dealt with civil forfeiture.
Specifically, it was our discovery that one agency was making 10 times as many stops on the so-called money side of the interstate.
But we have a drug problem in Madison.
Then why are all these stops being made?
Thank you, my
on the
brother T.
north
Riggles.
running
I
side?
appreciate it, brother.
Over the last 6 months, 90% of them were made on the north running side of the highway.
Why is that important?
Because they're not trying to stop drugs. They're trying to confiscate the money made from these drug
That is an
sales.
outrageous lie. Mr. State's Attorney.
And now federal drug enforcement officials have also issued what they call a 21st century code of conduct for interstate interdiction units.
Among the suggestions, that code says that those units should respect and observe the constitutional rights and civil liberties of all citizens.
It also says they should endeavor to arrest and prosecute those persons suspected of criminal activity.
And it adds, emphasize interdiction programs are not purposed for enhancing agency budgets. But the most dramatic development came when a task force at the center of our 4-year investigation got a new boss, and he decided to put the brakes on that agency's policing for profit.
And he sat down with News Channel 5 chief investigative reporter Phil Williams.
I want the public to know that we will not be seizing. They do not have to be in fear of the 23rd Judicial Drug Task Force seizing their personal property, their cash, their assets.
When Ray Crouch was elected DA back in August, he inherited a drug task force that aggressively worked a stretch of I-40 in Dixon County,
Large sums of money, over $5,000 in cash.
taking advantage of laws that let them seize cash, often from out-of-state drivers, based on the suspicion that it's drug money, money that the agency got to keep.
The way the
most of the time when they pull you over, it's, they pull over out-of-state drivers. Again, because an out-of-state driver wants to settle it right then and there, especially if you're coming as far as New Jersey from to Tennessee, that's a long drive. Most people want to settle it right then and there. This is why they pull over out-of-state drivers, and they don't expect you to want to be involved or fight it. So they take advantage of that.
The law, the civil forfeiture law exists. It can be misapplied. I don't want to take the chance that we can misapply that law.
Neil Crouch says that if interdiction agents stop drivers in their personal vehicles and they don't have enough evidence to charge them with a crime, officers won't be taking their cash.
We will not be using civil forfeiture to take anything from you. Car, cash, nothing.
So if someone has cash and you cannot arrest them, then you're not going to take that cash.
That's correct.
That's a big change.
I think so. I mean, I do.
The new DA also discovered that the task force was running a $400,000 annual deficit, but instead of pressuring.
So all the cops will do, these wicked, crooked bastards would do, is just arrest them to justify taking the money. He said, if you can't arrest them, you're not going to take the cash. So all they're going to start doing is arresting them and taking the cash, which is more trouble for the motorists.
Agents to come up with more cash. He's asking area law enforcement agencies to assign officers to work with the team, allowing him to get officers off the task force payroll.
My goal is to become an agent assigned drug task force. I mean, essentially eliminating 90% of a payroll.
So there would be no profit motive under what you're talking about.
Yeah, if there's no money, no big deal. They just go back and take to their job at the Dixon Police Department, McEwen Police Department, Cheatham County Sheriff's Department, whatever agency they're assigned from.
Our investigation had also raised questions about some of the tactics of the 23rd, like the time a drug task force supervisor stopped 2 Hispanic men in an SUV with Texas plates.
Hey, the reason why I stopped you was you're coming outside your lane of travel. I don't know if you're getting sleepy or you're not drinking, are you?
In fact, News Channel 5 investigators have been tracking that same vehicle from Sky 5 and never saw it weave once.
Most of the people who are stopped are completely innocent, correct?
Yeah, I think most people are.
Yet it sometimes seems like the interdiction agents treat it like a game.
Would there be any reason why we might have received a phone call and been told
Manipulating citizens to see if they can get them to consent to searches.
Play it off like he's one of us. Hey, man, you do this a favor. If I get another search out of the way, I get what we want.
Do you understand how these innocent people must feel when they go through this?
I can't personally say I know how.
It's crazy how wicked some of these bastards are. He's trying to rush the man into letting him violate his rights. He said, let's get it over so his punk ass can go to lunch.
Know how they feel. I wouldn't want to be that person.
So does that cause you to question the tactics?
What it causes me to do is to review what has been done in the past and try to be much more specific in our approach to finding drug dealers and drugs.
Our investigation also questioned the use of drug dogs to justify searches when drivers refuse to give interdiction agents permission to search. In this case, when one dog did not alert on a truck, agents brought out a second dog that did get a hit, finally giving them a reason to search. That search turned up nothing.
And I think in this case, why run more than one dog? I mean, again, I'm not hard up to get a traffic stop or to seize money or to seize drugs. Run the dog. If there's a hit, there's a hit. If there's not, there's not. I mean,
so what you're saying in that case, the perception isn't good.
That's right. The snapshot of running 2 dogs around a car, it's not a good perception. We're going to avoid that. We're not going to do that.
Most importantly, Crouch says he wants everyone who works for him to remember that it's called a drug task force for a reason.
Our mission is this: find drugs and arrest drug dealers. I don't care if we never hit another cash load at all. My theory is that if you work the drugs, everything else will fall into place. Look for drugs, look for drugs, look for drugs.
In 2013, Tennessee lawmakers did pass a compromise that gives policing for profit victims the ability to more quickly get their case before a judge.
But 2 unlikely allies, the conservative-leaning Beacon Center of Tennessee and the ACLU, have now teamed up to push a bill during the upcoming legislative session that goes even farther.
So first and foremost, we need to have adequate reporting.
We need to understand what is happening in the state. We need to collect the data. Local law enforcement needs to be more transparent so that every time property is seized, there is a record.
And then the second step in that process is
Brother T. Riggles, I knew this guy was lying because his mouth is moving. So you know he's lying. Law enforcement on any level cannot be trusted. I don't trust it.
is to ensure that there's not a perverse incentive there for the law enforcement community to prey upon innocent individuals or potentially innocent individuals.
And I think a really important question for us is, how do we ensure that there's not an incentive so that local law enforcement is not seizing property which then goes into their coffers?
So by removing that perverse incentive of allowing the confiscated property to then line the pockets of whatever department confiscated it, instead we send that property, which is oftentimes cash, to the state's general fund.
One recognizes that there are resources law enforcement needs, but those resources should not be funded by what we believe are illegal seizures by law enforcement. And there's no question that if you divert those funds to the general fund, then that incentive will not be what might be motivating law enforcement.
Of course, we'll keep an eye out as the debate continues.
And as always, thanks for watching as News Channel 5 investigates.
Now, this is the last part of the string for this evening.
Good evening. A Middle Tennessee sheriff is caught on.
The sheriff tells his deputies to change their stories about what happened after a pursuit.
On camera telling his deputies to lie. And it's not the first time this sheriff's controversial comments were caught on a body cam.
Investigative reporter Ben Hall broke the first story and has exclusive video from this new case.
Body cam video shows the tense end to a long chase in May of last year.
Get out of the car! I see your hands!
Teddy Lee Dodd was outside his car, surrounded by White County deputies. As he scrambled from his backseat to his front seat, deputies thought he might be going for a gun. To protect fellow officers, Deputy Richard Lynch drove his SUV into the side of Dodd's car.
You're lucky you had to kill somebody out here.
Minutes later, White County Sheriff at the time, Odie Shoup, arrived and saw Dodd had a broken leg. He quickly asked deputies if their body cameras were still recording.
You got your camera going? Yeah.
He makes a quick remark. He knows the camera would record and then watch as he appears to gesture to the deputy to turn his body camera off. But that camera kept recording as deputies explained to the sheriff what happened.
And that's when Lynch ran to the side of his car over there.
With what? His car?
His car.
I told him not to use them cars.
You then see Shoup walk over and examine the vehicles involved. Minutes later, he returns to the deputies and tells them to completely change their story and say the suspect hit Deputy Lynch.
He hit Lynch.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
The deputies then immediately check their body cameras again.
Mine's off. When I started, I hit mine, or the majority of it, I hit it.
And if there was any question about what the sheriff was saying, he came over again after talking with the highway patrol.
The TSP is going to fill out an incident report. It's not a wreck report since there's no damage to the car, so very little minor. And since he hit the patrol car.
From this video, the sheriff says he hit us, and that's not what happened.
We showed the body camera video to former Putnam County Sheriff David Andrews.
Well, it was obvious he was concerned about his car because he said, I told them not to use the cars.
This pursuit happened less than a month after a completely different pursuit in which White County deputies shot and killed Michael Dial. Dial was unarmed, and at first deputies tried to ram him off the road. But Shoup gave the order over the radio for deputies to shoot Dial.
59, take him out by any means necessary, including deadly force.
Afterwards, Shoup was caught on a body camera talking about the shooting and protecting his patrol cars.
I told him, I said, take him out.
I heard.
Damn, I don't give a
It wasn't long after that I heard shots fired, shots fired.
I said, we're ramming. I said, don't ram him, shoot him. Ain't gonna tear my cars up.
Dial's family is suing White County and the former sheriff, claiming Shoup preferred to shoot and kill Mr. Dial rather.
Now they'll prefer to shoot and kill Mr. Dial rather than risk damaging his police cars, his patrol cars. What a wicked bastard.
Than risk damaging his patrol car. As for the Dodd pursuit, Andrews says deputies were right to ram his car. They did not realize he was unarmed, but he could have been going for a gun.
It was very clear that the officers hit him, and I think appropriately so.
But Andrews, who is a past president of the Tennessee Sheriff's Association, is disturbed Shoup appears to tell officers to report it differently.
It's so uncharacteristic and not representative of Tennessee sheriffs.
White County now has a new sheriff. His office provided reports that show one of the deputies who laughed after Shoup's new version of events.
Yes, sir. One of us definitely don't want to be caught driving through White County, Tennessee. Do not drive through White County, Tennessee. That is self-explanatory.
Sir. Filled out his report accurately, stating Lynch used his patrol car to shut Mr. Dodd's driver's side door so he could not come back out with a weapon. The deputy said in a recent statement to us, "I will never sacrifice my credibility or reputation to fit a narrative that is fundamentally false. I reported the incident accurately."
I think that's an upstanding officer.
But the body cam video raises new concerns about White County's former sheriff and how he operated.
People want law enforcement to be accountable and credible. Period.
And this wasn't.
Not from what I've seen.
Shoup did not seek re-election and has left office. The new sheriff, Steve Page, blasted Shoup, saying the deputy did the right thing to ignore Shoup's direct order. He said White County deserves better. Shoup has moved out of White County, and we were unable to reach him. Ben Hall.
Of course he did. Let me see if I can find this video that is outright ridiculous. Let me see if I can find it. I'll find it on YouTube. Let me see if I can find this video. Now, this video is funny and it proves the cowardice of some of these guys calling themselves cops. Now watch this.
Shots fired! Shots fired! Shots fired! Shots fired! You know. I'm hit!
Now what you're seeing is a coward cop who arrested someone that someone said had a gun and a silencer. Now, mind you, they arrested the young brother. He's cuffed behind, sitting in the back of a police car. The young brother, I'm trying to just give you the narrative. He's sitting in back of the police car with his hands cuffed behind his back. But the police officer was under a tree and an acorn fell down and hit him in his vest. And he said, "Shots fired, I'm hit," because an acorn hit him in his vest. And this is the result of the acorn hitting him in his vest.
What? Everywhere! In the car! I ain't shot! In the car! Oh!
Do you know your tag number off the top of your head? Okay, it's okay. What? What? Where? Right there?
And what's crazy about that is, this whole situation is that police officers are trained. If they see one cop shooting, they're supposed to start shooting in that direction also. So this cop and his cowardice caused this other cop to run to his aid and shoot into a police car. They're shooting at the police car. He's in back of the police car, and they're both shooting on both sides at a man who's cuffed because an acorn hit this punk in his vest.
Jesse, get in the house! Get in the house!
All of this gunfire over a damn acorn in a residential area. I never seen such incompetence in my damn life.
Jesse, get back! Get back! Where is he? Where is he?
He's in the car, cuffed with his hands behind his damn back. That's where he's at.
43, give me traffic. Shots fired. Shots fired. I got a deputy down. Jesse, how are you? Okay.
I bet she never thought that this would happen when she called the cops on someone she's familiar with. I bet you she didn't think this would happen. Now they fired into that police car so many times. And what's crazy about it is, despite being handcuffed in back of the police car, I don't know what to say about this, but the brother wasn't even hit. So how did they qualify to carry their firearm when they can't hit something as big as a damn police car? They didn't even hit him, which is a good thing because he didn't fire at them.
Get back!
I might have hit my vest.
Okay. No! Get back! Get back! I'm not gonna tell you go! Get back! Get back! Get her! Get her! Get her back now!
No! Yeah.
And then they cause a public alarm because the acorn fell, hit the cop in his vest, acorn fell, hit the top of the patrol car, and he thought that the man was in back of the car, handcuffed behind his back, shooting at him with a silencer. Cowardice.
You see anything on my vest? Or you feel anything? Did you feel anything? My legs went numb when it hit me. All right. I don't know. My legs went numb for a second. I heard.
He said his legs went numb. He said he's hit and his legs went numb. He's no longer on the force. They allow him to resign instead of firing him for incompetence and causing a public alarm. And his certification should be just straight up disqualified for such incompetence, because if he worked with me, he'll be clowned for the rest of his damn career. He'll find acorns in his locker, acorns in his shoes, all kinds of however I can clown him, I will clown him.
I heard a pop come from. Go this way. Can you move? Yeah. I got the bike.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.
I hope this stream was enlightening and informative more than anything of the lies and cover-ups and the incompetence of people who say they serve us, or people that's referred to as public servants. That's why I call this channel The Enemy's Public, because the enemy's public, all those who say they serve us as public servants, they serve to our detriment. They don't serve us. I don't care what capacity it's in, it's always lies and cover-ups. And I just want to keep our people informed of the lies and cover-ups of people who say they serve us, but they are really serving to our detriment. Now, before I go, I want to thank my brother T. Wriggles, my brother JJ the Enlightening One, the sister Sharon Walker, Big Dog Philly OG, the Big Bro, Bronze Flat Power God, a Lady Shea Butter. I want to thank the brother Warfare K, Jewel 512. Thanks for tapping in. I appreciate that. Let me go on a computer. I can't see everybody on my phone, but I want to make sure I thank everyone who tapped in this evening. But before I go, I want to do a promo. Get a copy of my wife's book, Fire. The link will be put in the chat. And I'm going to play, while the link is being put in the chat, I'm going to play the promo. A once goal-driven, ambitious Sapphire turns to the street life after the sudden death of her big brother Dre. Dre's best friend Devontae tries to honor his homeboy's last request of looking out for his baby sister. The rebellious Sapphire makes it very difficult for Devontae to carry out his promise. Author Angela King James presents Fire. Get it on Amazon, on paperback, or Kindle.
The once goal-driven, ambitious Sapphire turns to the street life after the sudden death of her big brother Dre. Dre's best friend Devontae tries to honor his homeboy's last request of looking out for his baby sister. A rebellious Sapphire makes it very difficult for Devontae to carry out his promise.
Now I want to thank Legit Hustle, Sharon Walker, Jewel 512. See who else we have here. My brother Dre Cobbs. Thank you for coming through, brother. I appreciate that. Bronze Flat Power God, Big Dog Philly OG, Lady Shea Butter, true daughter of darkness. Thank you all for coming through. Again, I hope this stream was informative, showing us that those who say they serve us as public servants, we need to be mindful that we need to serve each other and ourselves, because those who our tax dollars pay to serve us serve to our detriment. This is the enemy's public. I am Brother Nasir. Those of us who tapped in this evening, please like the video, share the video. Peace.